Does anybody from the other side of the street want to add on to that? Other thoughts, things that surprised you, something that you didn't know or that you will take and apply?
I'd like to just comment. I'm Dr. Kelman, and I've been working on healthcare reform in Washington with the Obama administration, and there's so much new innovation right now that could be applied to the outreach, and just being able to get that connection made right now feels very important.
Well, I think automatically. There. I think in the end, we're all looking for impact. I mean, it doesn't matter what anyone does. And again, coming from private sector, in the end, it's all about behavioral change. Whether it's buy my share, buy my Nike shoes, wear green this year because blue is out of style, wear a condom, act safely, don't drink and drive. In the end, we're all simply looking for behavioral change. And that's all the communication is there for. Now, how you apply it through different technologies, channels, and everything else, that's where people aren't thinking too much about. They throw technology at it, and hopefully it'll stick to something. But I think if we move up that chain, the decision-making chain, where people and communicators especially can say, what am I really trying to say? What is the result of what I'm trying to say? What am I trying to make people do? And then start from that. And I think that's important also for web managers or people who are involved in technology, technologists, that they also get involved way up on the decision-making channel, that they're included at those senior meetings. Maybe they don't say much, okay, but they're included and they can start working in their head, how can we apply this, how can we apply this? And again, not only digital, offline as well. Publications, digital printing, local printing, these types of things. And I think this is where a lot of that impact is going to start happening.
And I see that you guys had Scott Goodstein, who's actually was the Obama mobile guy. Mm-hmm. He was a very good friend of mine. Content, worth talking a little bit about. I mean, that's the unifying theme. I was actually struck, there's a good study that some of you in the innovation track might want to actually peruse on M content in particular. I think there's a lot of conversation. You know, we talk a lot about tools, we talk about design processes, we talk about you know, all sorts of ways in which efficiencies can be gained, but we're not talking a whole lot about content, and there's actually very little sort of information on what kind of content are we talking about here. You're nodding, Robert. The study was commissioned by Ericsson, and it was looked at M content in the Philippines and in Uganda, and it was extraordinarily interesting because it was strictly ethnographic. It was asking people about, okay, what would you like to find out more about? What information do you need? What are your information needs? Not about how would you like that delivered. You know, none of the questions that we often ask, where function supersedes form, or however that goes. So how are you guys thinking about content? What is it that you are actually delivering in the in this information context? I mean, in your case, it's probably primarily organizational information, marketing information, or
yeah. But I would think if you take it the UN as a whole, I mean, you know, what's the UN's product? And the product is knowledge, basically. And that knowledge is delivered through different ways. It's either delivered through a conference, through a publication, through some back channel negotiation. It's delivered in that way. And now that online's coming up, and obviously it's the quickest moving segment, it's the cheapest segment, it's the most tailorable, if that's such a word, segment, that inside, especially from communications, way back when communications was simply something that someone had some extra time to do. But communications is becoming a profession, and I think people are starting to realize that at the UN as well, that it is becoming a very skilled profession. Online communications is even become more a skilled profession. And it's starting very, very, very slowly to be recognized that. And I think it's not the job of senior managers to come down and say, yeah, now you're a professional. It's a job the other way around. We have to prove it. And I think this is where we need the proper tools. Funding's an issue, but not really. There's a lot of free stuff up there. It doesn't cost a whole bunch to build a widget and throw it out there. But at least as far as part of that decision-making responsibility, that you know, people who are involved in the technology and communications start to do that. There's a generational change going on right now, the way I see it. And it really is a shift. Give it a couple of years, and senior managers are using the buzzwords. They're using all those Web 2.0 words. They don't know what it means, but they're using them. But they're using them because someone told them about them. So, and now that trickles down, and I think anyone who's running a web shop or a technology shop knows that every now and then SG or EXD comes down and says, I want one of those. Doesn't quite know what it is, but wants one. And then that's starting to change. So our job is to educate. Our job is to educate the organization, senior management, as well as the people we're trying to reach out there and help. So it's all part of that content, per se.
How do you development organizations figure out what is it that you're actually delivering on the information side? How do you guys figure it out, Robert?
A lot of close interaction with our users. Yes, we got a lot of close interaction with our users. I guess my question would be, what content and for whom in particular? I mean, we had this comment made earlier that access is not inclusion. Right. So I attended a conference at the end of 2007 at OSHA in Geneva where someone pointed out, and this is in a relief context, we're in the hallowed halls of UNICEF, hallowed basement. Someone pointed out, we go out and we assess their needs for security and we assess their needs for water and shelter, and this all goes up on these websites, HIC websites and Relief Web. That's content that a lot of people need, but are we assessing the information needs of the population themselves? Is that something that we assess so that we can make sure that that then is being turned around and provided to them? It's the right information, it's the content that they need, and it's in a way that can include them in the loop. And that's something that I don't think anybody has really figured out how to do. We can do it in a development context, but how do we apply that when the requirements change unexpectedly?
Just follow up with 2 anecdotes. So I ran the Geek Corps program in Mali, and the worst use of content I saw were the USAID clicks. And the idea was, let's put a whole bunch of academic papers on CDs and charge pregnant women to watch them. It didn't work. I mean, literally, that was the context of, here's a UN study on bed nets, and let's give them to the people, and it's going to make their lives better. So we've been giving them we have never asked what they want. And I think, luckily, with networks and with the web, we're almost at the point we can stop having this conversation. The best use of technology I've seen was we enabled a community radio up in northern Mali, north of Timbuktu. We gave them an RBGAN antenna, RBGAN satellite. And the problem with the RBGAN is it's $6 a megabyte. So that's not very sustainable. So we limited it to 200K a day. And we gave them an allowance. So if you didn't use internet that day, you could have 400K the next day. So they had about a meg a week, so about $6 a week. That's pretty sustainable. And what did they do? The community radio director is also the principal of the school. He would go through like Yahoo, and we did it was just pure text, no ads, no graphics. He would search the web for the information they wanted. A lot of it was, they broke the news about the Tuareg rebellion in the north before the national media did. And nobody thought it was possible. They didn't believe them. And then the next day, when they found out from the news, everybody went out and bought radios. And whenever the internet went down, they would all start complaining. So that's kind of allowing them, that's a proper use of technology, and that's something you can do right away to give people what they want. So I think the key is focusing on how do you enable that radio director to share the right information from the internet in the local language to that community, and let's not waste all of our collective time to figure out what to put on a CD. And also, if you want to give them content, if you're going to force something at them, make it a book they actually want to read, or like, Wikipedia with images, or something that's entertaining. So.